Hello, and welcome to the 8th episode of the spring season of Caterpillar Nation. The new summer 2024 season will begin Friday, June 21st, the first day of summer, and will run for 8 episodes. I'm Jill Kimball, licensed clinical social worker and private practice therapist. Caterpillar Nation is a growing community of people like you who are curious about the human experience. Follow me as we create a safe place to learn about mental health, mental illness, and mental wellness. We will explore the psychology of who we are and how to develop our best mental health. Just like caterpillars who transform before becoming butterflies, we are also on a journey towards our best self. Stay tuned. So what makes it so that some of us can go with the flow in the face of stress, maybe sometimes even rise to the occasion, and some of us get overwhelmed? This X factor that I'm talking about is resiliency. In today's episode, we will look at what it takes to create more resiliency so that we can adapt to our changing world and recover more quickly from perceived setbacks. So, what is resiliency? Being resilient is our ability to be flexible, to learn from our experiences, and adapt when challenges come up. It's that ability to keep on going when things don't go our way, when we can bounce back from the setbacks. What resiliency is not is pretending that things don't affect us or ignoring the feelings that go along with a setback. When we're resilient, we do acknowledge the setback and we try to examine it and see what we can learn from it. And we honor feelings of loss or frustration, but resiliency is that ability to bounce back. Resiliency is a muscle that needs to be built, but with practice, anyone can develop the strength that it takes to get knocked down and get back up. This doesn't mean taking on a persona of toughness or, again, emotional numbing that setbacks or losses haven't affected you. It's more like a decision to be persistent and to develop a belief that you can handle whatever happens. And the truth is, we have to handle whatever happens, because so often the setbacks or crises in our lives don't stop. Life doesn't stop. We do have to keep on going. So we do have to survive. I love the Japanese proverb that says, "Fall down 7 times, get up 8." So we are going to fall down. We are going to have failures, setbacks, and losses. But when we can build resiliency, we have that ability to keep on trying and to hang on to hope. When it comes to building resilience, first we have to decide to be resilient. Our self-talk needs to include that we self-identify as a resilient person, that we carry that can-do attitude, that whatever happens, I know I can handle it. So with this resiliency, when something bad happens, it's really valuable that our self-awareness can name what emotion we're experiencing so that we can figure out how to handle it and what our needs might be from there. I really love Brené Brown's book called Atlas of the Heart. When I read this book, I thought if all my clients read this book, I might be out of business, because it is so valuable in helping us build a vocabulary about what emotion we're really feeling in the moment. The premise of the book is that most people have a few words, 5 words, to describe different emotions they experience. But through their research, they identify 80 plus different emotional states that we experience. And in being able to name what we're experiencing, is this a loss? Am I disappointed? Am I frustrated? Am I sad? Am I envious? All these different emotional names. When we're able to accurately express what we're experiencing, we're on the path to figuring out what we need to move on or to heal from a really difficult situation. So again, I highly recommend Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart, because when we experience a setback, we want to know what's going on with us so that we can be on our path to helping ourselves. This is the opposite of the victim mentality. So that bad things happen to me, or I just can't do it. Unfortunately, some of us might use that victim mentality to get our needs met. Maybe we need encouragement or support. And in identifying as a victim, there's something wrong with us that needs help. What I'm talking about with resiliency is that we recognize that the help is going to come from us. So once you identify what has this setback or loss, what does it mean to us, and what's the emotion we're feeling, we could use our personal dashboard to take a look at what are some areas that I could improve my self-care. We can also look at our sparks of joy. What are some things I know I can do that will lift my spirits? So, understanding what emotions are triggered by a setback, having the self-talk that says, I know I can get through this. Understanding what emotions we're feeling and what's the path to healing or comforting those emotions is the mindset that it takes to become a resilient person. One of the strengths of the resilient person is that they have a can-do attitude. They're good at reminding themselves that there is always a solution and I might have to get creative to problem solve. It doesn't mean I'm never going to experience a setback. As a matter of fact, it means that there's a chance that I will fail, that I will have a setback, and then we look to have learning experiences so that we can try again. The resiliency leads to some momentum that does cause us to try again. It helps us to not be afraid to try new ideas. Most of us have been through tough situations before. We have handled setbacks, letdowns, personal crises, and we have figured out how to get through it. I know with my own anxiety, I can experience that mindset that says bad things are going to happen. And it can spiral towards everything is bad. But when I'm aware of that, I pull on my self-talk to bring me back up saying, I've handled hard things before, and I can handle this. In a previous episode, we talked about responding to stress, and that when we're managing our self-care with healthy sleep and eating and physical activity, social supports, and those kinds of things, that we're in a better place to handle stress when it comes up. We also talked about how meditation gives us that ability to pause and slow our mind down so that we can figure out how to respond to stress. Resiliency seems to come even before stress. it is that attitude that, again, I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know that I can handle whatever happens. And so it even changes how we look at what some might perceive as stress or failure. I love all the inspirational stories about people who have written books and it had been turned down by a dozen editors before it was finally picked up. I also think about how most inventions didn't happen the first time someone tried it. They may have tried it and then failed, but said, wait a minute, I have another idea. They kept going with that resiliency. We'll never know how many things haven't been invented because a person said, forget it, I can't do this. I know in my life, I have wanted to do things to promote mental health education. And my thought was to do a podcast, to share more information so that everyone has an opportunity to learn more about themselves so that they can find their best functioning. But when it came to actually recording it, I discovered I had a lot of anxiety, and it led to procrastination because I just wanted to get it perfect. But once I was able to meditate, slow my mind down, I thought, I'm a brand new podcaster. I might not get it right the first time, but if this is a worthy endeavor, I'll just keep trying, and hopefully I'll be improving so that I'm still working towards my goal. Recording isn't easy for me at all, but I carry that resilient attitude. It's kind of like a brave attitude of, let's give it a try because I think I can do it. But if I don't, I also know I can recover from that. We need to pay attention to this self-talk. Really, so much of our mental health comes from paying attention to our self-talk, learning to recognize what emotions we're experiencing or what stressors we're experiencing, being able to calm ourselves or soothe ourselves through distraction, coping, support, and then to make choices and priorities about what are our goals, what are the outcomes that we're looking for, so that we can make priorities and we can learn to talk to ourselves in ways that promote the can-do attitude. For those who have experienced trauma, loss, or mental illness, it can be really hard to have that can-do attitude, an attitude of hope. Because for many of us, fear is the first thought that comes up. That fear that a trauma might be repeated or a loss might be repeated, or that our mental health will get in the way of our functioning. This is the value of therapy. When we're carrying heavy loads that prevent us from doing a good job, an effective job in managing our self-talk, working with a therapist can be really important. Working with a therapist to process traumas, to process losses, to help us start making meaning of some of our difficult experiences so that we can regain the feeling of hope. PTSD is an anxiety disorder, and with anxiety and depression, our brain is trying to protect us from something bad, either by carrying a lot of fear or by retreating and expecting the worst to happen. And these are issues that are hard to deal with on our own, and they're issues that respond really well to therapy. Some people might get tripped up in their personal development because of mental illness or trauma and loss that they feel stuck with. Please, of course, pay attention to your personal self-care and activities that lift your spirits, like your sparks of joy. But consider therapy. Consider talking to someone who has experience in holding space and has techniques to help resolve negative thinking. It is such a valuable gift to give yourself and your loved ones. With resiliency, we can develop the ability to cope with whatever happens and recover from the setbacks. It helps us remain calm in the face of disaster because our self-talk is saying, we can handle this, we can survive. But we do need to have strong coping skills so that when those emotions of anger, frustration, fear come up, we have some coping skills to handle it. We also need to be good at gathering our available resources, whether that is social support to encourage us to keep on going or a new opportunity. Also, it can be just asking for help when needed. And sometimes fear stops us from asking for help. But that resilient attitude feels flexible and able to ask for help. And the resilient person is creative in finding different ways to manage difficult situations. Being resilient won't make your problems go away, but resiliency can help you see past the problems, find ways to handle them and enjoy life and handle whatever stresses come up. Being resilient does mean that we bounce back from setbacks, but it also prepares us for the future through this kind of personal growth and development. The next time we face a challenge, we'll be able to reflect back on the truth that we've handled something really difficult in the past, and that gives us that sense of bravery to try again. So instead of having that victim mentality that I'm afraid to try something because something bad will happen, like it always does, we have a survival mentality, that we're a survivor, that we can handle whatever happens. And we have some skills to recognize and regulate the emotions that a crisis or a setback can cause us. We also use some self-compassion to feel for ourselves, to say, hey, Jill, it's okay that you were scared to start your podcast. That's a normal feeling. And then get some support or problem solving to help me feel a little more brave when we're doing it. We can also remind ourselves it's okay to make a mistake. And the more we talk to ourselves like that, the easier it is to take that chance. So that's the can-do attitude coming back again. Of course, if you've had a lot of setbacks, it can be hard to connect with your can-do attitude. But we can write about it in a journal. We can talk about it with a friend or with a therapist. We can understand ourselves better to determine, is the effect of all my setbacks interfering with my quality of life, and will it be helpful to talk to a professional about this? We often don't understand and may never find out why bad things happen in the world. Why do bad things happen to good people? Often when something bad has happened or a setback, I have tried to look for, what am I supposed to learn from this situation? Is it learning about being stronger? Learning about developing faith that I can make it through hard times? Or is the lesson quieter? Is it about, it's time to take a rest and connect with my resources, whether that is being in nature, meditating more, using my journal, talking to a friend, so that I do have the opportunity to grow through my hardships and come out on the other side with some feelings of accomplishment and that sense of hope that I can do hard things and I might mess up sometimes, but I can survive whatever happens. As I'm recording today's podcast, it's raining outside, and the way the rain is coming down, it makes me want to stay inside. It's not that I'm afraid of the rain, because the truth is, I've been soaked by the rain, and I survived. I've been cold and wet from the rain, and I survived. And I have developed some improved coping skills. I have a raincoat, and if I'm going to go out while it's raining, I'm going to wear my raincoat. I'm also going to stand under the trees because the leaves act as a natural umbrella. But I'm also going to tell myself, if I'm wet, I can dry off and I can put clean clothes on. So this gives me the sense that it's okay to try. I know this is a simple example, and some of the setbacks that we face in life are truly traumatic and will take us a while to regain our strength. But understanding healthy self-care, having a support system, using that personal dashboard to check in with yourself about how are you handling all parts of your life, having a list of your mental go-tos, what can I do when I'm overwhelmed, having your list of sparks of joy so that if you're struggling, you can go to your list and at least have a smile, a happy moment. Get in nature, touch nature, have a Coke and a smile. Be willing to challenge the negative beliefs that come up. Recently, I was doing a meditation and this thought came to me that I don't have to be afraid. I actually don't have to be afraid of anything because I have survived this long and made it to this point. I kind of felt like Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone when he goes downstairs and shouts at the furnace, "I'm not afraid anymore." I felt like I was telling life, I'm not afraid anymore. I carry a sense of hope that I can do it. And if I fall down, I will get back up and try again. I hope that talking about resiliency will lead you to question your own kind of thinking and self-talk. Asking yourself, am I resilient? Have I decided I want to be resilient? And what can I do to strengthen that muscle? While I've been recording Caterpillar Nation, often after I finish a podcast, I think there is so much more I want to share on that topic. And so doing spring season was an introduction to topics involving mental health, mental illness, and mental wellness. Thank you for being a part of the first season of Caterpillar Nation. This is Jill Kimball. This is the final episode of spring season. Each podcast season will be 8 episodes, and summer season will be released on Friday, June 21st. If you have ideas about what you would like to hear in the next season, please email me, jill@caterpillarnation.com. A podcast can never take the place of professional mental health services. If you're in crisis, please text 988 or call 1-800-273-TALK. Check out my website, caterpillarnation.com, and my new Facebook group, Caterpillar Nation. If you like what you heard, please share this podcast with your friends and family. Then follow, rate, and review. Remember, the journey to health begins with knowledge. Stay informed, stay empowered. Until next season, keep learning and growing. Take care.